So we're joined now by Eyal Danon. He's the founder of Ignite Advisory Group, and he's been working for the last 15 years to create, manage, and facilitate customer advisory boards. So Eyal's going to share some of the most innovative CAB agenda sessions that Ignite is known for facilitating. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Excited to be here with everyone in this really awesome conference, and thank you for all the presenters. Really appreciate it. Let me jump right in and talk about the agenda for today. I'll talk about some engagement challenges that I'm sure all of you are facing. We'll describe 5 agenda sessions that Ignite is facilitating, and then we'll point you to some additional CAB resources that you can use following the presentation. If you have any questions, please submit it in the Q&A. I'll be going fairly fast, and hopefully I'll leave some questions to the end. About Ignite, if you haven't heard about Ignite, we started in 2007. It's amazing that in a few years we'll be celebrating 20 years. So we've been around for quite some time. We are the only firm that is dedicated only to advisory boards, customer advisory boards and partner advisory boards. We don't do anything else. We've completed more than 300 advisory board engagements, and many of the industry best practices were developed by Ignite. For example, the power to convene, which talks about the unique value that your company has and what is the compelling power to actually engage and invite members to your advisory boards. We codified the peer exchange in advisory boards, and also you heard Melanie talk about the 80-20 rule, which basically says that CAB members should be doing 80% of the talking and your executives, the host, should be doing only 20%. Many times it's easier said than done, but this is an important rule. Some of the common engagement challenges that we see out there: too many PowerPoint slides, too many product demos, is uneven and limited. Many times there isn't a closure at the end of a session. The session ends and kind of like flows to an uncertain location, and few meaningful insights that come out of particular sessions. So if I had to simplify it, right, the secret to success when it comes to advisory board meetings: members are looking for engagement, and the host company is looking to actionable insights, right? So remember the two sides: engagement and insights. And looking at if we talk about a couple of things that are really important for CAB engagement. Number one is to have a customer-driven agenda. This is a completely, different topic than what we are doing right now, but to create an agenda that the members actually want to discuss, right? There is an entire process behind it. Then it's a thorough preparation of the host company and the members. And finally, an experienced CAB facilitator, right? Someone that is able to deliver on session objectives, allowing for open dialogue, providing closure, keeping the agenda on track. And as Melanie from Citrix said, making sure that you have the right environment for the CAB, right? Lauren from Adobe as well, keeping a safe environment in the advisory board. There are many, many challenges when you're facilitating meetings. So just make sure that you have someone that can actually handle these challenges. Ignite has, like anything else, we developed steps and methodologies for everything. So when it comes to session development, I'm not going to go through it. There are 11 steps to actually create a successful session. Feel free to give us a call. Feel free to email us. We'll be happy to share with you the information and help you with your advisory board. So again, I'm not going to go into session development, but there are specific steps that need to take place at the right time, at the right place in order to ensure a successful session. Okay, let's move on to the agenda session. So, you know the drill, right? You come to an advisory board meeting and it's all the same. You know, someone is presenting a PowerPoint, you're looking for some Q&A. But what we have found throughout the years is once you have something unique, once you have gamification or design thinking or anything that is out of the ordinary, that can completely change the flow, the tempo, the pace of the meeting, and generate significant insights that probably you wouldn't be able to do in a regular Q&A session. So I wanted to present 5 sessions that Ignite has been mastering over the years, and hopefully you can find value in these for your next advisory board meeting. The only thing that I would say is I make it look easy, but you do need to prepare for it. You do need to plan for contingencies. You do need to think about fails. You do need to think about what happens if some members do not want to participate all of a sudden. Many things that you would need to consider. So just take your time preparing for the sessions. The preparation is worthwhile. The first one that I'm going to talk about, we call it the strategic loop. And this is really design thinking in action. So the goals are to improve products, services, or processes. It provides creative problem solving and enables outside the box thinking. And we adopted the methodologies from 2 companies, from IBM. IBM came up with the loop in design thinking. There's actually great content if you just Google, IBM Loop, design thinking. They have a website. There's a lot of information there. Obviously, it's not customized to advisory boards, and that's what we've done at Ignite. We actually changed the phases, and we created a CAB-ready process here. And we were also influenced, Sarah, this is for you. I mean, we're influenced by a Google Design Sprint methodology, which is a 5-day process. And obviously, we had to condense it. This is a longer session. It could take an entire day, or it could take half a day, but this is not a 1-hour session, right? So you start with discovery. That's a group discussion. What are we solving for? What are some of the things that we don't know, right? It's easy to know what we know, but what are some of the things that we don't know, and what are our capabilities? Then you move to the consider phase. And here you're trying to aggregate the knowledge and create some tentative concepts. And then the final phase, the longer phase, is the workshop. And when you actually, in the workshop, what you're looking for is deliver prototypes. We've used it successfully with Ryder, one of our clients, a Fortune 500 company in the area of supply chain, logistics, and trucking. And one product that came out of the strategic loop was Ryder Share, which is basically Uber for trucking. Very successful product by Ryder. So it works, and it's a whole process that is using design thinking. Another session that relates to the roadmap is what we call roadmap trade-offs. And your goal as the host company is to prioritize product development and ensure that the roadmap is customer-driven. The member is trying to get insight into the roadmap and also influence the direction of it. So one common mistake that we see out there is that companies show the roadmap, someone is getting up there and sharing some slides and asking for comments, but we believe it's the wrong approach, because at the end of the day, roadmap is about trade-offs. There is always trade-offs, right? Limited R&D budget, conflicting priorities, and so on and so forth. So you need to come up with a system that will actually force ranking and force some decisions. And a good way to do it is to play a game, right? You could play a casino game, you could play with dots, you could do nominal prioritization. It does take some time and effort to get all of it ready, but it's a great way to actually get the members to think critically about what is important, and for you as the host company to talk to them about the constraints and have an honest and candid conversation. Another variation is what we call the Ignite pyramid. And basically what we do, we bring pyramids to the session. One side is green, one is yellow, and another one is red. And the session leader, right, it's never a presenter, it's a session leader, is talking about a concept or a feature or functionality, and then the members, even without talking, they can actually show if it's green, great value, yellow, more research is needed, and then red is low value, and then you can actually take it further and have some meaningful conversations. Next session, session number 3, we call it breaking news. So it's a lively way to get some urgency and excitement into the advisory board. So what you need to do, you need to create a story or a challenge and have some constraints and a sense of urgency. Tab members love to be challenged. This is exciting, and you as the host company, you can observe how clients make decisions under pressure. Here's an example, and this works in highly regulated industries, right? Financial services, insurance, banking, healthcare, where data is critical for their operations. So you can choose a highly disruptive event, right? A natural disaster, a cyber attack, supply chain disruption, whatever the case might be. And the way it works, and you can see the image here, let's say a hurricane is coming in, right? And your operations and data centers are in Florida. So the way the session could work, you need to prepare in advance urgent communication briefs, right? And you pre-assign small teams and nominate team leads, and then you have a phased approach. You hand the first brief, right? The hurricane is approaching the data center. What actions do you take now and why? And you dedicate 20 minutes to it. After 20 minutes, you introduce another emergency, right? Power is lost. What do you do now? Then after 40 minutes, the secondary data center is under cyber attack. You keep changing the story. You keep, bringing higher stakes into the game. And it's very interesting to see what the teams are doing and able to do under pressure. And then you do a meta planning exercise to provide closure on that entire session. A lot of fun. You do need to prepare for it, but this is a great session to consider. Next one is Shark Tank. Like the TV show, your goal is to identify new products. The member goal is to influence future roadmap. So how does the session flow? You need to pre-assign the Shark Tank teams and the panel. The panel are the judges, right? And make sure that the judges are coming from the members, right? Not from the host company. Let's say the scenario is to bring a new insurance product to market. What we usually do, we prepare a business case template that is customized to the Shark Tank competition that could include things such as strategy, distribution channels, pricing, ROI estimates, and the teams need to complete the template, work on their presentation, and then pitch their idea to the Shark Tank panel. The panel, ultimately, there's a selection process. They select the winner, and then there is a group discussion around what have we learned and what can be implemented. And the final session that I would like to share with you today, we call it Moonshot, and it's basically an exercise to understand long-term vectors or drivers for your particular industry. This is really out there in the future. This is not for next year, not even for the next 3 years, right? So your goal is that as the host company is to understand the long-term vectors. The members really enjoy that blue sky breakthrough thinking and sharing visionary concepts with their peers. Here's an example of how Ignite would actually run a Moonshot session. We usually start thinking about what new technologies to disrupt the industry in the future. And you follow the exercise by doing multi-voting and breaking it down and bucketizing it into categories. Then we like to propose a provocative question, such as Warren Buffett is interested in the industry and he's giving you $1 billion to disrupt the industry. What would you do with $1 billion? And a good way of organizing that data is using affinity mapping, by looking at relationships and similarities and coming up with main themes. And the final part would be a discussion on what does it teach us about the direction the industry is heading towards? What are the competitive threats? And what will your company need to do to remain ahead of the curve? And this is future mapping, as Sarah from Google said, right? An advisory board can become the best opportunity to shape the future of your company. So given all these technologies, given where the industry is heading, after you've done the affinity mapping and you actually connected the dots around the similarities, what type of company your company needs to be in the future to enable that transformation, to actually take advantage of all these new technologies? What changes need to happen in talent, in resources, in approach, maybe in mindset and culture? So that's how you actually sum up the exercise, the moonshot. So I presented very quickly. I don't have a lot of time here, but 5 sessions: the strategic loop, trade-offs in the roadmap, the breaking news exercise, Shark Tank, and Moonshot. At Ignite, we have more than 30 session templates that can be customized to your advisory board needs. Again, feel free to give us a call. We'll be happy to help you with your CAB session needs. And in terms of resources, Ignite has really an incredible website when it comes to resources. We always provide free information. We have newsletters, we have webinars, we have blog posts. These are 2 webinars that are coming up in April and May: how to recruit the members and how to create highly interactive meeting agendas. So we invite you to join the webinars and actually use the resources that we have on our website. And that's it. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take some.
Great, yeah, and feel free to put your questions in the Q&A fields. And thank you very much for sharing some of those very innovative CAB sessions. It's definitely good to, probably as a best practice, is to try 1 or 2 things innovative during every CAB meeting to, as you mentioned, get that high level of engagement, but also get real actionable insights that the host company can use. So a couple of questions here, a real simple one to start with. What's the ideal CAB size in terms of members, and I guess also in terms of the steering team as well?
That's a great question. So, I mean, we've done CABs with 30 members and we've done CABs with 5 members. If I had to come up with a magic number, meaning at the in-person meeting, right, I would say it would need to be around 12 members. And in order to get to 12 members in the meeting, we usually recommend having about 18 to 22 members in the CAB to make sure that you'll have at least 12 members in the in-person meeting. And the steering committee, the steering committee, it's basically all the key executives that are impacted by the advisory board. So if you have a strategic advisory board, it's the head of product, head of sales, head of marketing, head of partnerships, head of marketing. Anyone that is impacted by the advisory board, make sure that you don't have a bi-weekly meeting with them. Probably once a month is enough for 30 to 45 minutes. Their time is valuable, but keep them engaged in strategic times throughout the CAB evolution.
Great. And we've heard the concept of, member interviews being used a few times throughout today. The question here is, do the member interviews heavily influence the session types you end up choosing for CAB meetings?
Absolutely. So, I mean, at Ignite, again, we have a process for everything. So as part of the agenda creation process, we work with the host company to create a discussion guide. The discussion guide would have anywhere from 5 to 7 topics. And then we test and validate these topics with the members. And that's how we get to an agenda. The agenda should have 3 to 4 key topics, not more than that. But if you're able to align or match the topics that are most requested by the members and actually create an agenda based on it, you'll have, most of your work done when it comes to making sure that the sessions are going to be relevant and valuable to the members.
Great, that's awesome. And another question here, how do you engage with members outside of the CAB meetings throughout the year?
So you need to create a plan. I think Sarah, and Melanie and Lauren, did it beautifully. But you need to create an engagement plan, right? CAB is the best analogy I can think of is a constantly beating drumbeat, right? It never ends. So you do it through inviting them to, specific sessions with the CEO. If there are breaking industry events, you convene the board. You can have subcommittees. You can have working groups, right, that actually deal with specific aspects of the board. You need to keep on thinking about engaging the board year round and not just at the annual meeting.
Right. A couple of people have asked whether you recommend hosting hybrid CAB meetings with folks in person and joining virtually at the same time.
Our strong preference is in-person meetings. Now that COVID, thank God, is behind us, there's nothing like in-person meetings to create. You need to create that spirit of camaraderie, and there's nothing like in-person meetings to do that. If you have logistical issues, if you have a global board and you have members from Asia Pacific or from Europe and they can't travel, then do hybrid meetings, but that should be the second best choice, not the first one.
Right. And I think this came up before, you try to meet at least annually in person and then do virtual meetings throughout. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. How long does it take to prepare for an advisory board meeting? I guess right from the start of the process. Say it's a new CAB, for example.
If you want to do it properly, give yourself 4 or 5 months to prepare for the advisory board meeting. We've done it in much shorter timeframes, but this is the ideal time to actually plan for a real advisory board meeting, meaning going deep into topics, finding the right themes, and actually preparing the members and the host company. So a 3 to 4 months runway is the recommended lead time.
Got it. Awesome. And we got an option here. We've got about 5 minutes left in the session. So it's up to you, Eyal. We can do some more Q&A. There's definitely more questions out there. Or as an alternative, you may want to describe that process. I know you flipped over it very quickly, the session design process. It's kind of up to you which one of the two you prefer.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a few more questions because, if people have relevant questions, let's see if we can answer a few more.
Got it. Okay. Yep. There's definitely some more out there. Yeah. How much time do you recommend for an in-person CAB meeting without losing people's engagement? I think this question is specifically at the C-level, keeping in mind there's travel and they're still balancing their day jobs. How much time?
So we recommend a day and a half of actual meetings. So, I mean, think about it. Let's say that everyone comes in on Tuesday, right? And Tuesday afternoon, evening, we always do a prep session with the host company in the afternoon before the meeting. We go for a couple hours, we go through all the sessions, we make sure everyone is aligned and all that. So let's say we, on Tuesday evening, we have the welcome reception and dinner. Then Wednesday, a full day of meeting, followed up by networking and something in the evening, right? Not just another dinner, but doing a fun activity with everyone, something that would get people, excited and make sure that the members get to know each other. And then another half a day on the last day. So a day and a half of content. This is our recommended approach. By the time it takes you to actually convene the advisory board, especially if it's strategic, and by the time it takes you to get everyone in there, you should have enough content to keep everyone busy and occupied for a day and a half.
Great. That's awesome. And gifts, is it advisable to give a gift? Should you pay for people to be on custom advisory boards? What's the carrot to encourage people to participate? Is there one?
So yeah, we don't recommend paying anyone to join an advisory board. They get immense value. They basically join for 3 reasons, right? They want to provide insights and perspectives into the host company direction and roadmap. They want to get to know people on a personal level, but they also want to benchmark against their peers, right? So if you have 20 people on an advisory board, they want to benchmark against other customers. And you need to provide that opportunity for benchmarking during the sessions. So they get incredible value out of it. No need to pay them. In terms of gifts, yes, that's a great touch. Make sure that it's not too expensive, not too extravagant. And if there's anyone that is part of the federal government, that's very, very touchy. So stay away from giving gifts to anyone that is in the federal government.
Yeah. Okay then, and I guess that last question here is a little bit of a detailed question. Do you anonymize the transcripts that come out from the meeting? So the meeting reports, who gets them, what's in them, how do you manage member comments? What's the process there?
Oh, great question. So we don't do transcription. We believe in actually summarizing the key insights, the key takeaways, looking for actual insights. So, I mean, that has been our approach. In terms of how do we do it, we follow the Chatham House rules, which basically says that there is no direct attribution to any particular member. So if Mary, for example, is saying something during an advisory board meeting, when Ignite creates the meeting summary, we say one of the members commented that X, Y, and Z, or the council approach is A, B, and C. So there is no direct attribution to any members.
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for answering those additional questions at the end.